What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a compilation of some of the gaming videos that I've made here on the channel, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Inside the Pentagon's long debate, do gamers make good soldiers? Either way, I just felt like talking about it because I thought it was a very, very interesting article to see. As you know, gamers do in fact make the best soldiers because all of us have been to war multiple times for each Call of Duty. That's obviously a joke. I don't really understand why this was written into an article, but either way, let's get into it and talk about it. In May, the U.S. military created a new rivalry. In a 7-hour Twitch stream, soldiers from the Air Force and Army fought on an unlikely battlefield, Halo Infinite. A popular first-person shooter video game, over 500,000 people logged on to watch the Air Force win the military's first ever inter-service gaming championship. At the event in San Antonio, the competition and camaraderie was celebrated, but as military leaders have begun to embrace gaming, it has come with controversy. For years, gaming in the military was simply a soldier's hobby, but now it's transforming into a strategic, well-calculated initiative many see as a means to recruit, retain, and train America's fighting force. Alright, I know that there's probably a lot of people in the military that play video games. I have a lot of family members that were in the service at one point or another, and they played a ton of video games, still do. In their off time, obviously, like not when they're working. So I can understand why the military would maybe make some teams for each division to help the soldiers have a little bit of fun rivalry, boost morale. But I don't necessarily agree with the second part of that, which is like, this is some very well thought out strategic mindset to recruit people. Only because, and maybe I'm wrong, I hope people aren't this dumb, I'm hoping people aren't tuning in to one stream of the Air Force and the Army playing Halo and being like, hey, I should definitely join now. I hope, for the sake of the United States, that the people joining the military are thinking about it a little bit more deeply than, oh, they play video games, so therefore it's super sick and I 100% need to join. I understand that the avenue they're talking about is probably more like it opens people's idea to it, it paints the military in a better light. But that being said, soldiers do play quite a lot of video games. I mean, think about the demographic of most of the military. People in between the ages of like 18 to 25. That's a pretty prime demographic when it comes to gaming. I do believe that naturally soldiers' interest in gaming activities has gone up as just it's gotten more popular. So I can understand why they might want to embrace it instead of fighting it, because it's kind of like a fight that you're not going to win. If the soldiers are like banned from playing video games, it's not actually going to change anything. You might as well lean into it, let the soldiers have a boost of morale and stay on top of their training than fight a battle with technology. Senior Pentagon officials are becoming more accepting of gaming, facing recruiting challenges and a talent pool that grew up with iPads and video game controllers. Each brand of the military now fields an esports team, and military sponsorships of gaming leagues are on the rise. And service members can easily flock to military-created Discord channels and chat with thousands of others about their love of video games like Call of Duty and Halo. I didn't realize that the military had an official Discord server. Does that mean that it's somebody's job in the military to be the admin for the military Discord server? Somewhere out there, you're telling me there's a possibility that there's the highest-ranking Discord admin in the armed forces. I'm not saying I wouldn't respect them because they did join the military. Thank you for serving the country, but that being said, it would be hilarious if everyone's sitting around swapping war stories in the lunchroom or something. One guy's like talking about his 9th deployment. Yeah, one time some kids got pretty rowdy in the Discord server, had to drop the ban hammer on them. Imagine he has to give reports to like generals every day about what's been happening in the Discord server. Sir, at about 1600 hours, sir, there was a huge fight in the Discord server. People were sending memes like crazy. We were able to put it into slow mode and contain it, thankfully. But some leaders are skeptical of gaming, arguing it weakens new recruits so they wash out of basic training. Moreover, the military has received fierce criticism from gaming experts and lawmakers for using gaming channels and influencers to subtly recruit younger audiences. It's a fine line, said Amy J. Nelson, a foreign policy fellow at the Brookings Institute, embracing the culture and the generation where they're at now and using that as leverage on the battlefield, but it's not something to exploit in recruitment. I guess the best way they could use this for recruitment is, like I said, just kind of softening people's image of the military. Which, I mean, they've done this in different ways forever. They had a video game in the early 2000s. But maybe this is optimistic thinking. I would hope that the average American would think a little bit more about joining the military other than being like, bro, that dude in the army is gnarly at Fortnite. I gotta go sign up right now. Because I don't think those are the type of people that we really want defending the country. Their service would be appreciated, but I would prefer to have people that are like a little bit more focused on serving the country and have honor about wanting to protect the nation, rather than just people that saw some sick Fortnite clips on TikTok and signed up. And I don't think that's going to happen. I like to believe that people would think more about it. And on top of it, I don't think people are that dumb, you know? I really don't, hopefully. And I even think, like the military is saying, it's not their goal to get everyone that plays video games to join. It's just, I think, a good way to get a little bit of outreach, soften people's images of the military, and a lot of soldiers do be gaming. The military has a long history with gaming. In the early 2000s, the Department of Defense poured millions of dollars into creating a shooting video game called America's Army that allowed people to pretend they were soldiers, fight missions, and explore aspects of military life. The game became a hit with millions playing it, and research commissioned by MIT in 2008 showed roughly 30% of all Americans aged 16 to 24 had a more favorable view of the military because of it. I mean, I knew they made a video game, but I didn't realize it got that popping, that 30% of the population was like, nah, they're way cooler because they made a video game. I didn't realize that that was the statistic. For some reason, I had thought that America's Army ended up being shut off because there was a lack of players. That might have just been because of age. I'm not really insanely familiar with the situation. But regardless, it just goes to show that they've been down this avenue before. It's not like this is the first time they've ever joined gaming. And I don't know how this works. This is a long shot. Like, this is definitely some random rambling, all right? There's a reason the description says semi-coherent rambling. Low key, would people that are cracked at Xbox be way better at flying drones? I know they use the Xbox controller for quite a few things in the military because people were familiar with it and they were a lot cheaper. But like, okay, if somebody's really cracked at building on controller in Fortnite, are they going to be the sickest drone pilot ever? Probably not. I'm sure it's very different, but I'm just talking out my butt here. At the same time, the military was relying on technology to shape its future. Augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and automated and unmanned weaponry called for recruits with increasingly technical skill sets. In February, the Office of Naval Research unveiled a study showing that playing first-person shooting games could actually create a better fighter. Playing those games, researchers said, could improve cognitive processing, peripheral vision, and the ability to learn tasks better. People who play video games are quicker at processing information, said Ray Perez, a program officer in the Naval Research's Warfighter Performance Department. 10 hours of video games can change the structure and organization of a person's brain. Alright, I get what they're saying. Obviously, if you're constantly playing games where you're going to have to solve problems, you would slowly get better at problem solving. But I don't really know how to feel about that last sentence, that 10 hours of gaming can change the structure of a brain. In that case, dude, my brain's got to be pretty fried. I don't know. I do get where they're coming from, too. As we become more and more reliant on technology, you need people more and more familiar with it. And as cringe as it sounds, there is something to be said for people that are very into video games being able to adapt to different systems very easily. For example, if you're like an Xbox guy, it might take you a little bit to pick up a PlayStation, but you could pick it up relatively quickly. And I think the same thing could be said for like once you've switched operating systems a couple times, trying something new technology-wise isn't scary. So if you do have to do something technologically in the military, it's a lot less intimidating because you have that experience. Even if it's going to be a different operating system, even if it is going to be slightly different, if they have experience with technology, it's obviously better than no experience with technology. And we are going to become more reliant upon it. It doesn't really matter. You can fight it as much as you want. It is going to happen. In terms of technology becoming more and more integrated with the military, it's just the future. Despite that, others in the military have frowned upon gaming culture. In February, Army Major John Mark Thibodeau, Chief Medical of Readiness at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, decried video games as a reason for why young recruits are physically unfit for the military. The Nintendo generation soldier skeleton is not toughened by activity prior to arrival, he said in a statement, so some of them break more easily. The Defense Department later removed his remarks from the statement. Captain Oliver Parsons, an Air Force officer and founder of Air Force Gaming, said that soldiers benefit from gaming initiatives becoming more formalized, and according to a study of 35,000 airmen airmen, 86% of ages 18 to 34 identified as gamers. I don't think gaming itself is the reason that recruits aren't able to pass boot camp. I mean, if you're one of the gamers that literally has never done anything in your entire life other than play video games, then yeah, your body probably isn't well adjusted to basic training. But if you're a normal person that has a few hobbies outside of gaming, I don't think that if it's something you do on the side, it's magically gonna destroy your bone structure. Everything was fine until I played COD and I got bone spurs. As for that last statistic, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. I think this might be a byproduct of how many people in the military play video games. Ages 18 to 34, 86% of them identify as gamers. At that point, not only do you get the benefit of people looking more fondly upon the military for playing video games, but also 90% of your soldiers now have an outlet for something that they do anyways, and they start to associate that activity with their service. You can understand why the military might be like, oh, it might not be a bad idea to support something 86% of our soldiers are doing. Overall, I don't think gaming would necessarily make you some type of super soldier. Like, people are delusional if they think that their CSGO experience would actually somehow make them better in a wartime situation. The US military goes through tons of training. I feel like if you can get through boot camp and get through the training, whether or not you're playing video games doesn't really matter. You'll probably be way more trained than you ever would be through just gaming. That's ridiculous. But it is interesting to see that even the military is starting to lean into it, and especially when it comes to future unmanned systems, technologically based stuff. I could see how, like, having prior experience with technology, whether that be through gaming, computer support, or whatever, would make you a little bit faster at being able to learn those weapon systems. So that's cool, I guess, but I don't know. It's interesting to see gaming starting to be brought up in, like, serious contexts. Should the military be recruiting gamers? Do they make better soldiers? Like, for a long time, I don't know, it didn't feel like people cared about gaming that much. And we all know that Battlefield 2042 has been like a comically large failure. It was like DICE took their reputation, put it in a trash can nice and neatly, poured some gasoline on it, and then lit it on fire like a hobo trying to stay warm on a winter night. And apparently they're going to be dedicated to fixing the game. I don't really know if they're going to be able to pull it off. Even if they make the game more playable, I think the damage to their reputation is done. And I think getting people to come back to the game after they had a terrible experience is always something that's difficult to do. But I thought we should talk about it, so without further ado, let's go. DICE is only focusing on Battlefield 2042 and has no time for other projects right now. I mean, yeah, if they are going to fix Battlefield 2042, it's gonna be all hands on deck. They're not gonna have time with anything else. That game has just been an absolute train wreck. But I also wonder if this is actually the smartest move. I mean, call me crazy, but I feel like the reception Battlefield 2042 has had, it might be better to just kind of start developing the next one and say, wow, that was really embarrassing and horrible. Just because the amount of work it's going to take to fix that game versus just making a better game, I don't know which one would be less work. That's how messed up Battlefield 2042 is. The one thing that I'll give them credit for is, like, obviously a lot of people shelled out money for the game. In the current state it's in, it is insulting that they made you pay for it. It is. It definitely is. So I could see, in order to win some favor back with, like, the most die-hard Battlefield fans, fixing the game, making it playable would make them trust them maybe enough to buy the next one. It really sucks to see what happened to DICE. I think Call of Duty went through the same era for a little bit too. It's kind of getting better. But like, Battlefield's just kind of lost what made it Battlefield. It feels like DICE just started doing the whole, oh, we can just milk as much money as humanly possible from this. It'll be sick. And that works for a while, but eventually people kind of catch on. And if you release too many crappy games in a row, you're going to have a revolt on your hands. Anyways, the start of the article talks about how, like, Mirror's Edge 3 is going to be in development hell because they're going to be so focused on it, and how the president of DICE talked about how they're going to try to fix the game. If you're a Battlefield fan, Kutaz, whatever it is fully dedicated to pulling the game out of the gutter. Battlefield 2042 was received pretty negatively at launch, and the rumor mill churned as leakers claimed that DICE had already drawn a line under the game and moved on. He says that that's not the case, and that they wouldn't do that to our players and wouldn't do that to themselves. I don't want to use the word revenge because it's too strong in English, but you know, we cannot leave it like that. As I said, we owe it to our players. Well, this is a complete change from how most game company presidents act. I feel like most game company presidents just got their entire personality from like Scrooge McDuck. They used to watch DuckTales and went, I want to be the guy diving into the money who's also just mean to everyone. Usually they're just wiping the tears with the $100 bills that people have given them to pre-order the like prestige edition of the game. We are so sorry that you guys are disappointed. Trust me, I've been thinking about how disappointed you guys are a lot while I count all of my money in my mansion. At least this guy says they won't do it to the players. I also don't know if he would necessarily come out and say that they've abandoned the game. And I love how the article says that it was received, you know, pretty negatively, as if it's not one of the worst rated games in like the last year. I would say Battlefield 2042 is almost good for the gaming industry because it's like such a bad launch that it makes every other kind of bad launch look better. Kind of like how Cyberpunk 2077, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like that had a really bad launch. So by comparison, if you have a better launch than that, you're good now. So like every first-person shooter game is thinking, well, you know, we don't want to release a bad game, but if we do, it won't be as bad as Battlefield 2042. I think DICE is just in full like recovery mode from all the bad PR that this game has gotten them. And I hope they can figure it out. Like I said, I love the Battlefield franchise. If they would like remaster Battlefield 4, that would be all the gameplay you guys would see for an incredibly long time. And maybe I'll give Battlefield 2042 a shot because it's like 50% off on Steam right now. Probably because it's that bad. They're like, please, we will do anything just to get people playing this again. I don't know. I hope they can figure it out because I think it is one of the better first-person shooter franchises. And I think when Battlefield and Call of Duty are both doing well, they kind of like compete with each other and both the games get better, whereas right now, I think both of them just, God, come on, figure it out, man. Cortez said she wants the team to be really proud of Battlefield 2042, adding that we want DICE to be the #1 spot for first-person shooter games in Europe and one of the powerhouses in the world. It's a fabulous team and we're gonna make magic together. Well, it was magically bad. Like, technically, you guys already did create magic. I mean, people have made a lot of YouTube videos roasting the game you made, so you gave them some magic. Some dude's looking at his analytics from the last month. Yo, this is poppin'. I'm just roasting Battlefield 2042. I do think DICE does have insane talent. Like I said, I think about some of the great games that they've made. Battlefield 4 is, in my opinion, one of the best first-person shooters of all time. The gun customization, the map design, everything about it was sick, and I know that they made that game, so if they can do that, I think about Battlefield Bad Company 2, I think about Battlefield 3, and I didn't play a lot of Hardline, but I know a lot of people say that that was a solid game. If they can do that, they should be able to get back on track, and I would want to be making good games too. I've got a feeling when like developers release a game that gets received badly, they're not big fans of that. I don't really blame the developers. 9 times out of 10, what happens is the CEO of the company puts an insane deadline on them, makes them release a half-finished game or something. I don't think the people at DICE are sitting there like, haha, we would love to release garbage and then get roasted on the internet. I don't think it's the developer's fault, but yeah, I think EA, who owns DICE, is known for just demanding a lot of money and being like, we need profits, and not as much about making a good game. And I think there's a middle ground there. You can't take 30 years to make a game because your company will go out of business. But at the same time, I feel like the last 5 years or so of gaming, it's become increasingly obvious that a lot of companies don't really care about the quality of the game because they know people will buy it. And it's starting to bite a lot of them in the butt. It's better to take an extra 6 months or even an extra year on a game if it means it's going to be well received and have a lifetime of 5 years versus just pumping out a garbage title every year that barely has enough longevity to be popular for 2 months. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. It'll be interesting to see if they can save Battlefield 2042. Like I said, I hope they do, and I know they have the talent to, but if there's one place it would definitely suck to work at while you're trying to make good games and focus on things other than profit, it's EA. EA Sports will milk everything from your wallet. Like, that should be their real motto. And I know EA Sports doesn't make Battlefield. Could you imagine they reframe Battlefield as like a sports game? The ultimate Battlefield Paintball Simulator 8. Apparently Airsoft's getting added to the Olympics, so maybe they'll make a video game based on that or something. And today I've got some good news. For those of you that are unaware, Team Fortress 2, one of the like all-time classic games, has been having a botting problem that has made most servers literally unplayable. I saw a little bit of footage of it, and I would rather run my testes over a cheese grater than play it. And so all the TF2 players decided to organize a protest. And Valve being Valve, I think everyone expected them to just kind of ignore it. But it looks like the protest worked because Valve has said that they're going to be taking action against the botters. So congratulations, they actually got Valve to do something. Yay! Team Fortress 2 devs finally respond to botting controversy after in-game protest. Listen, as much as I would love to pretend that Valve is doing this out of the kindness of their heart, they're just being super sweet and coming back to fix the game, what I think happened here is the protests started to get larger and larger. They got Save TF2 trending on Twitter. A bunch of people were flabbergasted that a game of this size could be in this state of disrepair. And they realized their wallets were going to be affected, so they were like, ah, crap, we got to fix this game. It seems like the Valve method right now is to release a game, let it get popular, make a bunch of money off community market transactions, and then just like ignore it for as long as humanly possible until you're forced into a situation to fix it. TF2 really is, in my opinion, one of the most iconic PC games of all time. I think it's the game that, like, at least for me and my friends, was the first game you get when you get a computer because it's free. And the fact that Valve would ever let it get to the point where people are having to stage a huge protest and straight up not play the game is embarrassing. For how much money this game probably makes, the least they could do is take care of it. If people have been loyal to your game for 15 years, the least you could do is make it a playable experience. Anyone who's logged into TF2 in recent memory will be able to tell you that bots are a massive problem in the game. Not only are bots openly hacking, but they often bear racist and bigoted names as well as straight up advertisements. To try and get something done about it, the TF2 community staged a peaceful protest and got the hashtag SaveTF2 trending on May 26th. The next day, devs tweeted from the game's Twitter account for the first time in almost 2 years, promising action. Imagine looking at the state of a game you love and every single lobby is filled with bots with racist names that are hacking and just ruining the experience for everyone, or like an advertisement. And you keep trying to tweet it at Valve, you know, you make videos about it and they just don't really reply. In fact, the account they have for TF2 didn't tweet for 2 years. Certainly makes you feel like they really care about the game, doesn't it? I don't understand how Valve went from making absolute bangers, like some of the most classic games of all time, to letting them all get into a pretty crappy state. I mean, I love CSGO, probably my favorite game of all time, up there with Sly Cooper. So I know how it feels to have a neglected franchise. We're not as neglected as TF2, but like, come on, someone over at Valve, please start telling them to start updating things and fixing platforms. It's ridiculous to have games as popular as TF2 and as iconic as TF2 in a state where it's literally unplayable. The fact that they haven't tweeted in 2 years on like the company account is flabbergasting. I quit Twitter, who cares? Nobody needs to know what I'm tweeting. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm just some random dude on the internet. But if you have a platform that like 50,000 people are playing on every day, I don't know how many players daily TF2 has, but people have inventories worth tens of thousands of dollars. It's a huge part of people's lives, you know? People make content on the game, and it's just a total blackout from the people that make it. That really sucks, especially when there's issues like this going on. Over 35 TF2 content creators are gathering to hold a peaceful protest in hopes of getting the long-running FPS game back in good health by further driving public awareness around the botting issue. The protest goes ahead on May 26 on various social media platforms through Save TF2 from around 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. The emphasis is on peaceful here, as the plan is for everyone to post about how much the game means to them and how much they care. You can expect to see such messages through the hashtag on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. This will be a very peaceful protest, just reminding everyone that we love the game. Don't send hate towards Valve, one of the organizers explains on Reddit. We will be representing the TF2 community, so let's do it right. So that's from a different article about the protest itself, and I think that goes to show just how polite the TF2 community is. Most video game communities, if the game had gotten to a state where there was bots hacking in every lobby and the game was ruined, would just be on Twitter calling out the devs, saying his mom's ugly, you know, taking pictures of his dad off Facebook and photoshopping them into precarious positions. Like, most fan bases are psychotic. I don't support that, by the way. If you're somebody like doxing the Fortnite dev, what's wrong with you? But that being said, the fact that this community went out of their way to make sure it was a peaceful protest with no hate sent to Valve, like, this isn't a community that's just hate mongering for no reason. Obviously, the game's gotten to a pretty bad state, but they still respect the company that made it. which is a huge reason why I'm glad Valve at least replied to this one. Could you imagine if they ignored this? All right, we organized a peaceful protest so that way they don't get too much hate. Valve just like fax machines them a printout of a middle finger. That's all they get back. Screw you, give me money. I think the protest got their attention, but I definitely think too the bad PR and the fact the player numbers have to have been dropping because of the botting issue is really why they're working on it. As somebody that really likes Valve games, it only seems like when it stops printing money is when they start working on it again. Either way, this was the tweet. TF2 community, we hear you. We love this game and know you do too. We see how large this issue has become and we're working to improve things. Bro, you're telling me that it took this entire tweet campaign and a protest for you guys to realize how bad the game has gotten? Is nobody there playing it? I've heard rumors that there's a very small team on TF2 over at Valve. But that being said, I assumed at least someone at the company was playing the game, you know what I'm saying? Alright guys, we get it. We understand this problem's been so bad for months that you guys have organized a huge protest and gotten it trending on Twitter to get our attention, and now we see how bad it is. I'm glad they're fixing it, but it is just funny the way they phrased it. Like, oh yeah, okay, we see it now. Before, when it was just making $80 million a month, we weren't paying attention. We were too busy counting our money, you know, Pablo Escobar style. But now that you guys are gonna stop buying weapon skins, we see it. Thank you for getting it trending on Twitter. If this is all it takes to get Valve to update a game, all right, we just got to start organizing. Let's get Half-Life 3 trending, okay? Let's get a new Counter-Strike up there. Let's just get it all rolling, you know? If this is all it takes is a tweet storm. They really said, I know we haven't tweeted for 2 years and been ignoring the game, but you guys are really mad, so I guess we'll tweet now. The botting issue has gotten so bad that it's almost guaranteed you'll run into some while playing. It's also become so widespread that players have started calling the game unplayable. I don't know how people are still queuing in and playing it every day. I mean, I know for a lot of people it's like their favorite game of all time. It's their bread and butter. That being said, if CSGO or Valorant ever got to the point where like every single lobby was full of bots that were hacking, I don't know how long I could keep playing the game. Like, I love Call of Duty, but when stuff got bad there for a while, you know, like in Infinite Warfare, Ghosts, I took a break, and that was just a bad game. It wasn't even full of hackers or anything, so I couldn't imagine just dealing with it and playing a game through the amount of crap that the TF2 players have been going through. I guess it is different when you have all the cosmetics, you know, when your inventory on TF2 is worth 8 small cars, you kind of have to keep playing. Valve, please fix the game. The skin prices are dropping. Hey, they take a cut of those community market transactions. They're not trying to let that down. And listen, I'm not trying to be too cynical. I'm not trying to say Valve only cares about money, all right? They're just a company that only cares about money. They've made a lot of banger games, but I think Steam, being the money printer it is, doesn't really incentivize them to do a whole lot of work on the games. Why get a ginormous developer team and stick them on TF2 when you just get a small cut of every game bought on your platform? Valve didn't elaborate on exactly what they plan to do about the botting problem, whether it's to devote more resources to combating it or expand the tiny team allocated to keeping the game running. At this point, they have to put in more resources, even if it's temporarily. They at least have to give them the developers to fix the issue. Who I feel really bad for is the team of probably like 3-4 developers working on TF2. They've been telling the boss, hey man, it's in a really bad state. We need more help. There's only 3 of us. And they're like, yeah, whatever. The numbers look good. I think in a game like TF2, as popular as it is, it's always got a lot of people online. It should always have enough of a dev team to at least keep it running and fix critical issues like this. What's the point of having a team develop a game if the team isn't even big enough to prevent like a huge hacking wave that literally has all the players and content creators organizing a protest? You understand how understaffed this game must be to even get to that point, or neglected. Either like no one at Valve cares, or the team is so tiny that it can't do anything. And TF2 is such a huge franchise, I feel. Maybe it's not as popular, maybe I'm out of touch. But I'm sure the community market transactions alone would validate having a decent dev team on it, decent sized dev team. Not that the developers are bad. I'm just sure when there's 3 of you for a game of this size, it's not too pleasant. So whoever's over at Valve, it's probably time to put a bigger team on it. It's that important of a game, and I'm sure it's still making money. Like, I'm not gonna pretend. Let's say TF2 was costing them $8 million a month and making no money. I could understand why they're like, look, we're gonna take away the developer team. But that's just not the case. It's still making bands. The simple fact they finally acknowledged it is huge news for players who had all but given up on any kind of action being taken, and hopefully this means the bots get taken care of and TF2 can once again be playable for actual humans. I think any Valve game's always going to start to run into issues with bots too, just because of the drop system. Like, theoretically, if you had an army of computers idling in TF2, hacking, whatever, you could make money off of the drops. It'd probably be pretty difficult, but I think from what I understand, that's what a lot of these bots are, is things just trying to get drops so they could sell it on the marketplace. That needs to be addressed because I'm sure it's not good for the market either. Getting the game to a playable state should be priority number one, but the issue with TF2 is there's so many things that rely on the game itself, its entire economy and whatnot, that you really got to prioritize fixing it. I think if they let TF2 continue to go down the crapper and they really burn people bad on it, the reputational damage would be really bad. I don't know who is going to trust Valve after everything if they let TF2 be ran into the ground and do nothing about it after they organized a protest and tried to do it the right way. They weren't mad, hey guys, please be nice, you're representing the TF2 community. It sounds like a Pokemon character doing a PSA, that's how polite it was. And I respect it, but if Valve decides to dookie on him at this point, then like, all right, then we know what kind of company this is. It's just another Blizzard Activision situation. Overall, kudos to the players for organizing it. I'm sure organizing a bunch of angry gamers to stay polite is difficult. And even in general, just organizing a protest of that scale is probably not easy. So kudos to them for that, and at least Valve is pretending to listen. Hopefully they follow through with it. I'm not trying to be too pessimistic. It's just Valve, so at the end of the day, it's like, they might not do anything. And I'm not gonna lie, I knew gaming wasn't in the best place. A lot of the biggest developers have been releasing massive stinkers like they got diarrhea, but I didn't realize just how much the most popular games is dominated by titles that released over a decade ago or getting near it. So without further ado, let's go. The article in particular that inspired this is titled, "Here are the top 10 most played games of the year so far." Obviously, I expected some of the just Titan games like Minecraft, Fortnite, GTA, that type of stuff to still be in the top 10. But I was expecting that at least a couple of developers have managed to come up with some games that can compete with stuff that came out close to a decade ago. I guess not. While new titles compete for audiences, games such as Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Sims 4, and more are still some of the most played games in the United States, with each nearly a decade or more removed from their original releases. In fact, only 3 of the top 10 most played games, Madden, Call of Duty, and NBA 2K, launched last year. If that doesn't go to show just how absolute floppin' the gaming industry has been the last few years, I don't know what does. The fact that almost all of the top 10 most played games are more than a year old shows that nothing really has been coming out recently to come and take over. And on top of it, the 3 games that are on the list that released in the last year don't really count because it's just the games that release every year. Like, alright, last year Madden 21 was on the list, this year Madden 22 is. I bet you NBA 2K21 was on the list. I don't know, I think games that release like that don't really count in terms of a brand new franchise or a brand new game. Just because it is something that people expect to come out with every year, COD releasing yearly is kind of just a tradition. Alright, so the tweet says, here are the top 10 most played games of Q1 in 2022 in the US ranked by initial year of release. So we have Minecraft, GTA 5, The Sims 4, Fortnite, Among Us, Animal Crossing, New Horizons, Call of Duty Warzone, NFL 2022, Vanguard, and 2K 2022. I don't think there's anything on the list that's like insanely surprising. I'm not flabbergasted and blown away that The Sims is still very popular all these years later. The one game that I guess kind of surprises me, even though it's still pretty recent, is Among Us, just because I don't really see a lot of people playing that game anymore. But I'm going to assume that's more of like an iPad kid thing than it is people with a gaming PC still wrecking Among Us lobbies. If you do play Among Us, no judgment, you know? Apparently there's a lot of people playing it too. I'm just saying I don't see as many people playing it. I didn't think it would be top 10. That's the list. I figured I would just go over each of the games and kind of talk about them a little bit. I'm not an expert on all of them, but just kind of why not? It's my channel. All right, so the first game on the list was Minecraft. I know it released in 2009, but I'll be honest, when this game drops out of the top 10, I will still be flabbergasted. I think it's one of those games that'll be popular basically forever. And I'm not trying to sound like a Minecraft fanboy, but if you really think about it, the gameplay is insanely simple. The graphics really can't get dated because the entire point of the graphics is to have that sort of style to it. And on top of it, it's a game that you can kind of play at any age. I think, especially with how many kids are growing up on Minecraft, as they get older, they're not just going to stop playing. And on top of it, when they inevitably have kids of their own, they're probably going to let them play Minecraft. Because I'll be honest, out of every game on this list, it's like the least controversial. What? Oh, they're just building a castle? I guess maybe you could be mad about violence. But if you're mad about somebody smacking a zombie with a sword, then I don't know, go outside or something. I'm not surprised this game is one of the most popular still, and I will be surprised when it stops being as popular just because of the way it is. All right, number 2, second oldest game was GTA 5. Hey, this game, dude, they've milked this game. Holy cow. You want to talk about a money machine. I think it's literally the most profitable media franchise ever. Not highest grossing, but in terms of like they've made a return on their money X amount of times compared to what they put in. And it's still printing money. I think GTA Online is probably like one of the greatest games ever made. I know a lot of people will have beef with that, but there's a reason people still play it and are spending money on it 10 years later. Thank goodness GTA 6 is at least in development. I know that still means it's 3 years out. I don't know if this game's got another 5 years of popularity in it, but you know, this game in my opinion is up there as a masterpiece just because, my goodness, all the GTA games are incredible, but this thing's really stood the test of time. I know a lot of people are pissed off that they milk money, and that's fair because they really are milking it. How many times are they gonna re-release it? It's basically the carjacking version of Skyrim. But yeah, I'm not surprised this is on the list. Next is The Sims 4, which I mean, kind of a boomer game, but there's a lot of them. Not boomer, younger than boomer. You guys get what I'm saying though. Listen, it's fun, I get it. I'm not gonna blame someone for wanting to play Sims. You wanna like trap them in a room, remove all the doors, whatever. You wanna design a house, you wanna play Sims. I don't care, do whatever you want. It's not my cup of tea, but it is one of the biggest franchises, so it makes sense that, like, it's still being played a lot. Especially because it's such a casual game, you know? If you want to play Vanguard, you gotta have an Xbox, you gotta have a PC that can run it. Dude, your MacBook could run Sims pretty okay. And it's just been around forever. It's one of those games that, like, basically everyone has heard of. With the amount of DLC that drops, it should still be up there, and I'm sure it's still printing money. It's like the only good thing EA has going for it right now. Fortnite still representing on the list. I mean, obviously the amount of 12-year-olds that play this game is absolutely bonkers. I didn't necessarily think it would still be top 10. I knew it was still very popular. I know it is kind of on a mini comeback. It'll be interesting to see if it has the Minecraft effect where like it's been cringe for a while, but maybe people will start to really enjoy it again. I know when they removed building, a lot of people were like, no, it's really good now. I haven't really had the time to get back into it. I think because they added the playground too, that's a lot of it. It's basically like a console Roblox is how I've heard a lot of people describe it. I'm actually shocked Roblox isn't on this list, to be honest with you. That game I feel like everybody and their mom has played. But Fortnite, I mean, where how big as it was, is still going to be in the top 10 for a bit. It literally took over for a minute. That was the last game that I think was a crazy large cultural impact. Like, my mom knew about Fortnite. Amogus. Dude, this thing is basically being on life support through memes. I don't understand how people still could find this game super enjoyable. If you do, good for you, because, hey, man, whatever makes you happy. That being said, it's so repetitive. It's so just like, it's a Flash game, bro. I guess I don't really have much room to talk because I play Bloons. That's also basically a Flash game. But how is this thing still top 10, man? It's got to be the memes. The memes are keeping it afloat. Everywhere you look, a Mugus meme. I know in like the Reddit place thing that they did, there were people hiding Among Us guys everywhere. I think it's just reached that point of like people ironically like it. Some of them secretly, unironically, but it's just reached meme status. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Hey, I don't know a ton of people that play this game. I'm just not a giant Nintendo dude. I've played it, don't get me wrong. But the people who do play this game are fanatical. Not in like a scary Minecraft kid way, but in a, I actually did the macro and managed to fit X hundred plants on my island. Like, they're just so into the game. I'm not surprised that it's still top 10 because everybody I know that's into it is like insanely into it. And I know that they literally add stuff on a very, very frequent basis. Always got an event or something going on to keep people engaged. And it's one of those franchises that's been around forever. Like, you do have people that have played a version of Animal Crossing for like 30 years at this point. If they've got that integrated into their daily pattern, it's not like that's gonna magically start breaking. We're creatures of habits, baby. Next up is Warzone. Geez, the devs are trying to run this thing into the ground. I mean, honestly, it's bleeding players because the developers don't know what they're doing. They can't really fix anything. I'm not a giant Warzone guy. I've played it very, very little. But the amount of people that complain about hackers, the amount of times they patch something or like release an entire map that's broken and then take forever to fix it, I think that this game is holding on because people have put a lot of money into it. The mechanics are very good. But goodness, they really got to figure this out because it's definitely not going to be on this list for much longer at this rate. It does get the benefit of being a Call of Duty though, and I think that's one of those franchises that is just immensely popular. It's definitely getting carried a little bit by that. And hopefully they can figure it out and fix it, because I like when Call of Duty does well. I am a fan, obviously, by the gameplay. But dude, you would think this developer team is trying to put themselves out of work. They're like, I want to be fired. Like I said, I don't really think this entry counts. It's just Madden 2022. Madden is one of those games, bro, where they basically just take a box, right? You know, they eat some Taco Bell, they get a good stomach brew going on, and then they proceed to just take a massive dump in the box. But then they wrap it in different wrapping paper and give it to the people that they gave the gift to last time. And for some reason, everyone who gets the gift opens it. And they're like, ah, man, there's poop in this box. And it's like, yep, you guys have been buying this poop in the box for the last 27 years, so why would we stop now? Madden is fun. I like football. I've played Madden. I used to be a huge Madden fan. But my goodness, all of the sports games are basically just a reskin over and over and over. And I get it because it's printing money. You know, if I had something that people would pay me $60 a year to buy a new version of the same game, I'd probably sell it too. But the fact that this entire franchise could be eliminated by just patching in roster updates goes to show how ridiculous it is. It's not going anywhere just because of the popularity of the NFL, and it is fun. It's a fun game, I'll give it that. Call of Duty Vanguard. My goodness, talk about a franchise that can wrap a box of crap up every year and I'll still buy it. They were on the upward trajectory for a bit. I feel like Modern Warfare 2019, Cold War, stuff was getting back on track, and then Vanguard just came in like a wrecking ball and destroyed everything. Horrible game, I'm not gonna lie, not very fun. I saw a couple people defending it in the comments the other day. Listen, man, I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of a World War II game. I'm just saying I'm not a fan of this World War II game. It's just not good. Call of Duty and Battlefield are both in a rough spot. I think first-person shooters in general, like the arena shooters, going through a rough patch. There's a lot of pressure on Modern Warfare 2 that's coming out this year, just because I feel like if that fails, Call of Duty might drop off this list. It's still insanely popular because it is what it is. I love it. But let's be honest, they need to drop something other than a stinker. They've really got to figure something out to get people back involved in the game that doesn't mean having to play Vanguard, because goodness gracious. And Cold War wasn't incredible, but it was a lot better than Vanguard, you know? It's like Call of Duty Ghosts. A lot of people hated that game. They didn't like it. They were like, oh, this is the worst Call of Duty ever. Infinite Warfare comes out, and now all of a sudden everyone's like, wow, Call of Duty Ghosts really wasn't that bad. Sometimes you have to just have a horrible experience to realize that the good experience was even better than you thought. And that's like Call of Duty. Call of Duty, being a Call of Duty fan and hoping for a good Call of Duty, is like having a dad that left to get milk 8 years ago. You hope he's going to come back every birthday, but at the end of the day, you know you're probably going to be disappointed. Rounding it out, 2K22, it's pretty similar to Madden. in terms of like it's just the same game every year. That being said, might be a controversial opinion, it is a better game than Madden. I would rather pay $60 every year for 2K than Madden. I don't know, all these sports games, it just kind of feels like cheating that they're considered a year-old release just because their entire fan base is definitely not new to the game. Sure, I'm sure some people, 2K22 is the first 2K they ever played, but let's be honest, a majority of people that are playing these sports games have been playing them literally forever. Same with Call of Duty, like the fact that they included these three at the end of the list. Oh, they're really recent. No, bro, it's like basically saying that a new Fast and Furious movie comes out and it's one of the hottest new franchises. Really? The 17th movie means it's one of the hottest new franchises? I don't know, man. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that a lot of people have seen all the other ones. Overall, the state of gaming, we definitely gotta have some new ones coming out soon, bro. I don't really know what's been going on with all these developers. It seems like they're all in a state of being a train wreck. But the fact that all of these really popular games this year came out a very long time ago just goes to show that, something's gotta give. Someone come out with something that's a banger, alright? We need another Fortnite Among Us hit. Anyways, that'll do it for the video. I know it's just kind of me rambling about a bunch of video games. So without further ado, let's get into it. Blizzard facing potential class action suit over Hearthstone card packs. Alright, let's be honest here, loot boxes are basically a fancy way to say gambling. You know, I do love loot boxes. I'm not saying I've never spent money on them. I don't think that gambling should be illegal. That being said, I do think some people do kind of get deceived by these card packs sometimes. And I especially think what gets tricky is when it's not necessarily displayed what the odds of winning are, so people think they have good chances of getting good cards. And yes, that's their fault because anyone who understands how it works understand it's rare, but particularly with kids, you know, every kid thinks that when they open a CSGO case, they're gonna get a knife. Every kid thinks that when they open a card pack, there's gonna be a super rare card, and it's not exactly telling them, actually, you have a 0.03% chance. That being said, this particular lawsuit does seem a little bit like a we want money situation. And remember, I'm not a lawyer, alright? None of this is like legally binding. I'm an idiot talking over gameplay. Earlier this year, Hearthstone developer Blizzard Entertainment won its fight to keep Overwatch loot box lawsuits out of court, forcing the matter into arbitration. Months later, another parent on behalf of a minor is looking to sue the company, this time regarding Hearthstone card packs. According to court documents, Nathan Harris from Arizona and his lawyers filed a proposed class action suit in California court early May on behalf of his child, suggesting that Hearthstone's card pack system deceives players, particularly minors, into making non-refundable purchases. In the complaint, Harris's lawyer says the minor spent more than $300 playing Hearthstone from 2019 to 2021, using her father's linked credit and debit cards without permission. The lawyer argues the minor didn't know the odds of getting good cards and didn't know that she couldn't get a refund, and apparently she almost never received any valuable cards according to the lawsuit. Alright, so listen, I understand that the dad is probably pissed that the kid spent $300 without his permission on the game. That being said, the way that this particular document is worded, it makes it seem like they wouldn't have been as mad if she had gotten good cards from the pack. She almost never got valuable cards. I mean, that is how loot boxes work. And I'm sure, you know, he wouldn't have been thrilled either way, but for some reason, the way it's written cracks me up because it's like, obviously, if she would have unboxed some pretty sick cards, this lawsuit wouldn't be going forward. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it's just weird how it's written. I don't really understand the lawsuit here, though, because I do think you kind of volunteer to put your card on the account, and if you don't have like a password or PIN code that your kid has to put in before buying things, I don't really know if that's Blizzard's fault. Particularly because I'm pretty sure somewhere they have some rule about how, like, you know, if you agree to purchases, you know you're not gonna refund, blah, 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 blah. And listen, you know, I'm not involved in the lawsuit. I'm not trying to, like, side with anyone in particular. But I feel like suing Blizzard over $300 is gonna cost a lot more money than you're ever gonna get out of it. Lawyers aren't cheap, man. Like, they're just not. Card packs in Hearthstone function a lot like loot boxes, which have repeatedly been litigated in court by the FTC. Hearthstone players are able to play the game for free, but have the option of buying card packs to obtain new cards, hopefully powerful or rare ones. Harris's lawyer suggests minors have the right to disaffirm contracts or get out of them and get a refund under the California Family Code. The complaint also takes issue with Blizzard Entertainment not disclosing the odds for these packs, as well as its failure to implement parental control features, and the right for minors and their parents to get a refund. Harris and his lawyers are asking the court to award the class action status, meaning it could include any minors who've ever purchased a Hearthstone card pack with real money. That'd be hundreds, if not thousands of people, according to the complaint. Blizzard's gonna be in a tricky spot. If anyone who has ever spent money on a Hearthstone card pack is gonna be able to join a class action lawsuit and potentially get a refund. I've never thought about it, but if this is the case, like if this legal precedent gets set where like basically if you're a kid and you buy a weapon pack and it's not the weapon you want, you can get a refund. It would be very immoral, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, could like someone who's not 18 buy CSGO cases, open them, and if it's not a knife, get a refund until they get something that's worth more than the value of the case? Like theoretically, could you just have an infinite money printer? Obviously, they're going to find a way to shut that off, but it'll just be interesting if this case is allowed and Blizzard does lose it, what precedent that would set. I think you would be flabbergasted how fast these companies would manage to find a way to turn off kids being able to buy things if all of a sudden they could be sued for it. You know, like I said, I don't necessarily think loot boxes should be illegal, but I do think it would be fair that they have to display the odds of exactly what's going on. I think that's the only thing that hinges on the deceptive side. I understand that when I'm opening a loot box, I might not get the best item. In fact, chances are I'll get a garbage one. But I think it would make everybody a lot more informed if they could actually look at it and realize, like, the odds of getting a CSGO knife are 0.002%. I don't know what the Hearthstone odds are, but I'm just feel like maybe people wouldn't be blowing their whole paycheck on boxes if they knew there was actually like a 0.2% chance of getting anything they want. I think it's fair to make sure that the consumer is relatively well informed of what they're getting themselves into. You know, Blizzard is just praying it doesn't go class action. Like, class action lawsuits are huge. The lawyer would make a ton of money. But that being said, you know Blizzard is sitting there like, please no, please no. Because I've got a feeling that there's a huge chunk of people that are making microtransactions that are in this age of not 18. Video games just cater more to kids. It is what it is. So they would be opened up to quite a hefty chunk of damages if this goes through. Blizzard responded to the complaint on Tuesday with a filing of its own, seeking to move the case from the California State Superior Court in Orange County to the U.S. State District Court in California's Central District, which it says has jurisdiction. To argue that case, Blizzard's lawyers revealed that Hearthstone has made more than $1 billion in revenue since it launched in 2014. It said this, of course, to demonstrate that Hearthstone has a huge player base and there's no way to know whether minors have made purchases with or without parental consent. Though Blizzard disputes the complaint, it suggests the damages in a proposed class action lawsuit would exceed $5 million, a fact it needed to prove to get the case moved to a new court. I mean, I get what Blizzard is saying, right? So many people are spending money on Hearthstone, there's really no way for us to check if kids or adults are the ones making the purchases. And I get it, right? I get what they're saying. The only problem is I don't really know if that's like a great legal argument. I don't necessarily know how it works. Obviously, it's very, very different for video game companies, but I think know your consumer laws on some levels, know your customer laws might come into effect. If you're making over $1 billion in revenue over any period of time, sure, there's always going to be like some person buying stuff that's not supposed to be buying stuff. That being said, I could understand how it might come across as willful ignorance to a judge. No, you see, we just have no way of knowing whether these people make purchases with permission or not. Meanwhile, there's somebody in the back room like counting the amount of money that they've made ever since this lawsuit started. Like, alright, obviously they're never going to be able to prevent everyone from making purchases. That's ridiculous. But the idea that there's nothing that could be done to prevent people that shouldn't be making purchases from making purchases, there really does need to be a parental control system. And I'm not even trying to say that because I think like rules and regulations are the greatest thing ever. Let's just be honest. If you're going to keep opening yourselves up to lawsuits, it's probably better at some point to be like, you have to put in your password before you buy something. And at that point, if the parent tells the kid the password, that's on them. Now they have liability for anything that's purchased. But yeah, I do think at some point it becomes a little bit of like, you guys had no clue what was going on when accounts are just making huge amounts of purchases without having to put the password in, you know? I think you're going to put yourself in a situation where eventually some kid's going to buy $3,000 worth of Hearthstone with his mom's credit card and she's not going to know about it. Like I said, I'm sure Blizzard is hoping that this lawsuit just goes away because it would be a lot of money, you know. I think that's why they're trying to get it moved districts and whatnot. But overall, I think loot boxes are going to continue to have a lot of legal issues. I just think displaying the odds would calm a lot of people down. And I think realistically, like, yeah, probably coming at some point is going to be some type of system to verify that you are who you are before you make a purchase. Just so that way, even if some kid steals his mom's credit card or like steals the password or whatever, they can at least say that there's systems in place that try to prevent this. Whereas right now, it's like, oh, we're counting all this money, but we have no clue who's spending it.
Alright, so EA is the company that has the rights to Star Wars games currently. I know EA tends to not be a very popular game company. That being said, they are the people in charge of making Star Wars, but it looks like they're putting one of the better developers that they have in-house on it from now on, considering how bad they've kind of been fumbling the bag. You know, maybe I don't understand the gaming industry, but in my mind, having the rights to Star Wars video games basically should be a money printer. Like, this should be one of those franchises that's pretty easy to make a game that makes a crap ton of money in. Maybe I'm just being stupid, but whatever. 3 new Star Wars video games are in development at EA and Respawn. EA's exclusivity deal with Lucasfilm is ending, but EA is making new games. Alright, that's actually really good news that their exclusivity deal with Lucasfilm is ending. That being said, I'm not surprised they're still going to be releasing those games, simply because there is such a big market for a good Star Wars game. To this day, every now and then, I'll bust out my Xbox 360, set it up, and play Star Wars Battlefront 2, the really old one. Because it's just a really fun game, you know. I understand I might be alone in that, but that being said, I think making a Star Wars game that is good would lead to a bunch of money, especially because now, video games aren't just the money you make from selling the game when it's popular, it's the microtransactions along the way, the weapon skins, all that junk. So, if anything, a game as good as Battlefront 2 is, you know, or an equivalent, in terms of being innovative and new now, would definitely be a money printer. And Respawn, they're probably the best people at EA to be working on it, because I'm pretty sure they're the people in charge of Apex. EA and Lucasfilm have jointly announced that 3 new Star Wars games are in development at Respawn, the studio that developed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Among those 3 planned is a sequel to Fallen Order, which was single-player, a Souls-like melee combat and action exploration game, and the other 2 include a first-person shooter and strategy game, but EA's press release did not provide details about those titles beyond their respective genres. Alright, I will say, you know, a lot of this video is going to contain bias, but that being said, I'm a huge first-person shooter fan. Like, Call of Duty, CSGO, and Valorant are probably my 3 most played games of all time. And then Halo would probably be up there as well, so the idea of a good Star Wars first-person shooter to me sounds absolutely lit. You know, Fallen Order was okay, better than Battlefront, that's for sure, but, you know, anything would be better than that train wreck. That being said, the one thing that I feel like, you know, they might mess up on is I feel like sometimes game studios now focus a little bit too much on having a good way to monetize the content, right? Like, alright guys, what are we gonna do for Battle Pass Season 4? And listen, I understand it's probably nice to think ahead, but that being said, there also is something to be said for making the game super enjoyable, so that way you have a bunch of people playing it when Battle Pass 4 comes out. Like, yeah, Fortnite was obviously very smart about monetizing stuff with the Battle Pass and the skins. But more than anything, that was just kind of already their monetization system, and then the game got really popular because it was unique and something people hadn't really played before in terms of, you know, a battle royale where you can build stuff in a cartoony style. So my one hope is they focus on trying to make, like, an addicting Star Wars first-person shooter, and then, you know, an advantage of that is monetization. That being said, EA, you know, no offense, but they tend to do the opposite. How do we get as much money out of these idiots playing this game as possible? And, you know, I don't think people playing the game are idiots, I'm just pretending to be EA's board. Remember when Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out, the recent one, and everybody did the math that you needed to spend like 10 grand to unlock everything or something like that? Hopefully they've learned their lesson with the backlash that they've gotten from the last few Star Wars games, but you know, certain companies just kind of look like they never learn their lesson. The first-person shooter will be led by a former producer for the Star Wars Battlefront franchise of the online shooter set in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, but which one? The old one or the new one? The strategy game will be produced by Respawn, but its lead developer will be BitReactor. BitReactor is a new studio formed in part by developers who previously worked on the recent entries in the XCOM franchise. Alright, so XCOM overall is basically like one of the gold standards of the strategy games, I would say. I'm not a huge strategy game fan, but if a lot of the people working on this new Star Wars game have experience from a franchise like that, I think that's a step in the right direction. Maybe EA's finally learning their lesson here by just picking people that are good at a genre, letting them have the Star Wars IP and telling them to make whatever they want. Like I said, sometimes I feel like games are so worried about like, alright, we need to use the Star Wars IP a specific way, you know, this is what we want. We want Call of Duty with Star Wars weapons. Instead of just kind of letting the game developers and people that make good games kind of make a game that happens to have all the Star Wars IP, I feel like that's probably the best way to go about getting a mega hit. Think about it. If these people at XCOM come up with like a new type of strategy game with all the experience they have and a benefit of it is it's the Star Wars universe, then you're getting a bunch of Star Wars fans, but you're also allowing people that aren't Star Wars fans to get into it. Sometimes games that are linked to a movie franchise or something like this are like only enjoyable to people that are super big Star Wars fans. So if you're gonna do a Star Wars first-person shooter, just focus on making it a great first-person shooter that happens to be Star Wars to actually get the results I think you're wanting, you know. I think EA and a lot of people just expect because they slap Star Wars on it that it's going to become the mega hit of the century. And sure, it'll sell a lot of copies, but if you want it to get to the size where it's like a massive success Minecraft Fortnite level, it's gotta be gameplay focused first. Maybe I'm stupid for that. Respawn is currently best known as the developer of the popular online battle royale Apex, but the studio's pedigree runs deeper. It's led by many of the same people who made the wildly popular Call of Duty Modern Warfare back in '07. That game established the formula for the next decade of online shooters until it was upended by the popularization of the battle royale subgenre. Credit for the battle royale's triumph goes in large part to Epic Games' massively successful Fortnite, although Fortnite didn't create the genre itself. Respawn also made both Titanfall games, which were story-driven shooters set in the same universe as the more recent Apex Legends, and very recently, Respawn co-founder was put in charge of EA's Battlefield franchise of the online military shooter after Battlefield 2042's mixed critical and player reception last year. The announcement from EA and Lucasfilm did not include any details about the characters, stories, or settings in the new Star Wars games. Alright, I think Respawn overall is a very great developer, dude. Titanfall, definitely up there as one of the more underrated franchises, in my opinion. You know, a lot of my really old videos have Titanfall gameplay. That game was fun. So, I think if anyone's up to the task to take all the Star Wars IP and do something unique and different with it that can be, you know, entertaining to a bunch of different people and also fun for Star Wars fans, I think Respawn's gonna do it. Obviously, you know, I'm not the biggest EA fan of all time either. I don't hate them as much as some people do, but I am a little nervous about the fact they're handling it. That being said, if there was a subgroup of EA that I could have handling these Star Wars games that I thought would have the best chance at making something super fun, it would be Respawn Entertainment. You know, Apex Legends, pretty solid. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which a lot of them worked on, pretty solid. Titanfall, solid. At this point, I will take just a solid Star Wars game because so many of them recently have been such absolute garbage, bro. Like, I'm sorry, you know, EA has just absolutely fumbled Star Wars in video games. It's like they got this, they were like, oh, we're gonna make so much money, and then they just did, like, dude, they just hired their, like, nephew to make a game. He never programmed a game before. They're like, no, dude, you got this, and then they're like, why is it not printing money? Why is it not making as much money as we thought? At least now they're putting their all-stars on it, at least as far to the all-star as you think they could be. EA has had exclusive rights to publish games set in the Star Wars universe since 2013. However, that deal ends soon, and non-EA Star Wars games are already in development, including an open-world game published by Ubisoft and developed by Massive Entertainment, and a narrative adventure game by Quantic Dream. In other words, players who want to play big-budget Star Wars games are going to have more options in the next few years than they've had since the 2000s. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of exclusive game deals, only because of situations like this, where, you know, EA signed this agreement in 2013 that they were the only people who can make Star Wars games, basically released nothing but flaming bags of crap. Alright, I'm sure there was some redeeming qualities, maybe that's harsh, but you guys get the point. They didn't do too hot. And now, all of a sudden that's ending and a bunch of studios are working on games. They're like, we've got our best studio on it. We're developing multiple titles. We're doing our best out here. Where was all this, when you guys were just kind of in a situation where you should have been trying this hard in the first place? To me, it's a little bit of a too little too late. I know most people don't care that much. They're still going to go out and buy Star Wars games from whoever. But yeah, it does bug me a little bit that, like, now they're going to try really hard on Star Wars. Obviously, from a business perspective, as soon as there's no risk that you're going to have to share any of that property, the incentive to try as hard does go down. I think competition overall tends to be good for the consumer. If game studios have to be competing to release better and better games, I think that's good for the gamer. And I do think if people have to compete to be the best Star Wars producer out there, have the best reputation, that's good, because then studios take it a little bit more seriously. I mean, let's be realistic here. Look at what happens when huge game studios have no competition. You have Madden, which, is basically the same game every year because there's not really much anyone can do about it. FIFA, which also kind of the same game every year because there's not too much anyone can do about it. You think those games would really release every year in the exact same repackage if there was a huge competition in another type of FIFA game that actually had, some money behind it? Probably not, but exclusivity deal is going to do exclusivity deals. I don't know. I think overall, if you think you make the best Star Wars game, go for it. But having the exclusive rights to something, while obviously makes business sense for the person selling the rights, in my experience, especially in video games, just leads to a subpar product. Open world Star Wars, though, that definitely sounds interesting, at least to me, dude. Forget it. If Grand Theft Auto 6 is never gonna come out, that's fine. Just give me a game where it's open world and I can be Han Solo, roll around stealing drugs from Jabba the Hutt in Star Wars world, dude. That's exactly what I want. And open world means someone else can be a Jedi. Imagine GTA Online, but an open world version of Star Wars. Oh, yes, that sounds lit. See, competition already. No wonder EA was like, oh, crap, we actually got to do something with this. Get the guys from XCOM on it, If you bring in the people that are great at the strategic games, is that bringing your strategic team in, All right, you guys are great at making strategy games, so now get on out there and bring back the Star Wars franchise, because we messed up and might have accidentally cut off our main money printer here. Just kidding, EA prints money from a bunch of stuff, but you guys get the idea. In my mind, dude, this would be the equivalent of somebody buying just an insanely profitable franchise, bro. Imagine somebody wants to talk about how they're such a big businessman, and then they buy a McDonald's. So basically, all you gotta do is listen to McDonald's advice on how to run it, and you'll be okay. And then somehow they manage to go bankrupt running a McDonald's. It's dude, you really had the easiest job in the world. And that's how I feel like EA has handled the entire Star Wars situation. Oh, they're giving us a franchise that literally millions of people love and grew up with, and people have been wanting a good video game forever because none of them have come out. Yeah, okay, let's just not take it too seriously. That should have been a money printer, dude. If you line out what they got, exclusive rights to Star Wars games for 10 years, and look at all the games they released and how popular they were, dude. It's come on, guys, come on. This should have been easy. EA should be sitting here honestly, we have so much money from these Star Wars games, we're not sure what to do with. We went out and bought every worker a gold-plated Lamborghini. Alright, so slowly but surely every year, every 2 years, Microsoft has been buying a huge publisher and just adding to the massive backlog of games and IP that they own. And I'm no expert, but personally, I think their vision is to become kind of the Netflix of gaming and have a system where you pay them X amount a month to have access to these titles. And, the reason I think that seems to be the approach of a lot of companies these days, even Disney with Disney Plus is adding that to the rest of the ways they make money. And when you start to look at just how much stuff Microsoft owns, you'll see that they have as much power in gaming as Disney does in media. So this article is called Every Game and Studio Microsoft Now Owns. It was just a convenient way of getting them all in one place. That being said, we're going to talk about each one a bit and why it's important. Alright, so they did buy ZeniMax Studios last year, which is the house behind a bunch of studios like Bethesda Game Studios, ZeniMax Online, ID Software, Arcane Studios, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios. Franchises, as you can see: Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, Dishonored, and The Evil Within. Pretty big ones in their upcoming games: Ghostwire Tokyo, Redfall, and Starfield. I think this is the first one that made everybody be like, oh, Microsoft ain't playing around here. Obviously, those franchises are massive. Quake and Doom, historically huge franchises, still sell well whenever one comes out. I think they're trying to redo, get Quake going again from what I've seen a little bit, or planning on getting it going again. On top of that, Elder Scrolls is a huge series. Skyrim alone, they re-release every 2 weeks. And on top of that, Fallout is, in my opinion, that's my favorite RPG series, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think that's a great game. And even having access to a lot of this IP is a huge benefit to them for their Game Pass, which is, the Netflix thing, similar we were talking about earlier. But on top of that, for continuing to develop games, having all these studios under your huge umbrella means that you're going to constantly have something releasing. Whereas, ZeniMax on their own might have to release this or this or this and keep it on a type of timeline to release a game every year. If you're Microsoft and you own 30 studios, as long as 10 of them release a game every year, you're probably doing okay. Next up, of course, we have Activision Blizzard. They own Blizzard, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, High Moon Studios, Toys for Bob, Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, Beanox, Radical Entertainment, and Vicarious Visions. Absolutely insane company, $70 billion, but its franchises are Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, Candy Crush, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Guitar Hero, Skylanders, and Spyro. They've got Diablo 4, Overwatch 2, and Call of Duty coming up. I mean, obviously they paid $70 billion for a reason. I think those franchises are absolutely iconic, especially when you talk about World of Warcraft being a subscription game that people are paying every month to play. I think this is a really good move from Microsoft, especially because the company's been going through so much crap and so much bad things that they can step in and make it better. And on top of it, they were in an incentivized spot to sell. I think overall this is a huge benefit to their Game Pass system and their revenue from gaming, and I think in 10 years we're going to look back on this and think $70 billion was a bargain. Maybe I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm not a financial expert. That's just my opinion for entertainment. But I'm just saying, I think this is a good ad. And even beyond just games for the Game Pass, Candy Crush alone, dude, you know how much soccer moms be spending on Candy Crush? Way too much. Next one, super iconic, not as much lately in the last couple years. Rare Games, paid a cool $375 million. GoldenEye 007, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Viva Pinata, Sea of Thieves and Battletoads, and Everwild. Obviously, Sea of Thieves was a pretty big hit, that game was pretty relevant. That being said, I feel like Rare Games is one of those studios that focuses a little bit more on making sure every game they release develops a cult classic following than just trying to push a title out the door every year to get your quarterly revenue numbers up, and I think a good balance of both is probably in Microsoft's best interest. That being said, Rare, obviously classics. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorite platformers. GoldenEye 007 is the inspiration for most first-person shooters we have today. Not a bad thing to have in your arsenal. I'm going to do a bunch of these next ones kind of rapid fire because they don't have as many games between them individually. Alright, there's 343 Industries. They're the people that work on Halo now. I think Bungie were the originators of Halo. That being said, 343 does have experience on a couple of Halo games now. Super powerful franchise, a lot of staying power. The Coalition, which is the people behind Gears of War, an Xbox exclusive, which I do think definitely probably helps sell consoles. That being said, it's not as popular as it was about 10 years ago. No insults to them, it just is what it is. Mojang, which was a pretty big purchase. Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons. I'll be honest, this thing's probably gonna print money basically infinitely. I mean, Minecraft's really popular right now. And on top of it, I feel like a lot of people are gonna let their kids play Minecraft. It just seems like one of those games that has staying power forever. I mean, any of these on their own would already be a huge studio in their own right. And then you realize that Microsoft has just kind of been buying them up and acquiring them, and it makes you realize that they're starting to get a bunch of games, IP, game studios, developers in their company's arsenal like it's a bunch of Pokemon cards, They go out and scoop up developers like I did running to Kmart and buying a 10-pack of Pokemon cards for $3.
They own Ninja Theory, which owns Heavenly Sword, Devil May Cry, Disney Infinity, so not bad either. Playground Games, Forza is basically what they're focused on. Upcoming game, though, they have a new Fable one coming out, iconic franchise. Undead Labs owns State of Decay, which is a solid franchise in and of itself. You're probably like, oh my goodness, there's even more, but this isn't the end of the list yet. And if you think about it, like Devil May Cry, Fable, franchises like that, sure, on themselves aren't massive, but if you start to say that like, oh, one of our smaller franchises is the Fable series, that's absolutely impressive because that still is like a platinum hit on basically every generation it comes out on. Obsidian Entertainment, which has Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Neverwinter, Fallout New Vegas, South Park, The Stake of Truth, Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, and Grounded, with Outer Worlds 2 coming out, and In Exile Entertainment, which has the Wasteland series, and Tides of Numenera. I hope I said that right. And the last one is Double Fine, which has Psychonauts, Broken Age, Brutal Legend, Costume Quest, and Grim Fandango Remastered. And listen, while a lot of these studios have developed Xbox exclusives, there's no denying that Halo, Gears of War are up there as exclusives. I think their future plan relies a lot less on making all of these exclusive and a lot more on making like a Game Pass model that basically everyone's gonna have. I've talked about this a little bit before, but think about it. Our grandparents would not have spent $10 a month on TV shows on demand, but our parents would, and we will, because we really like to watch Netflix. We really like to watch TV. Our parents are not going to pay $12 a month to have a gaming subscription, but I'll be honest, with how many studios Microsoft has, if they include all of these on some type of Game Pass, it's probably going to be worth it, especially considering they're going to continue to develop these games as well. And I think Microsoft also realizes there's a lot more money in becoming the provider of a majority of people's games via subscription than just focusing on having only Xbox exclusives. Because even after they bought Activision Blizzard, they came out and said that they're not going to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation. A lot of people were wondering about that because Sony and PlayStation have an agreement to get DLC first for Call of Duty and stuff like that. So a lot of people expected them to come in, make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive, screw over Sony. And while I guess they could, I think they're aware of the fact that they're going to make way more money off owning Call of Duty on both consoles than they ever would selling Xboxes by making it an exclusive. And you add a Game Pass to that, and suddenly, things look very lucrative. Because they can always go to Sony and be like, hey, you're going to let our Game Pass be on there, right? Wink, wink, we own half the games that are worth playing. As predicted, Call of Duty will still release on PlayStation. Head of Xbox Phil Spencer confirmed this news via a tweet. Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship. Phil Spencer is very careful with his wording here and specifies Call of Duty by name, meaning the same treatment might not extend to other franchises. I mean, obviously, if a new single-player game came out, I think Xbox would consider making it an Xbox exclusive, but Overwatch, Call of Duty, stuff like that that's going to be popular on both consoles and produce a lot of microtransactions. I don't know why Microsoft wouldn't keep it, because now they're getting the bag from it either way, That all being said, what really blows my mind about all of this is, we've talked about how big Microsoft is getting in gaming for 10, 11 minutes by now. And all of that being said, what's nuts is this is still a very, very small portion of their revenue overall. Just to highlight how little of Microsoft's overall business comes from gaming. The best way to highlight this is the fact that Microsoft's total revenue in 2020 was about $168 billion, an absolute crap ton, right? Listen, they're a $1 trillion company, they're making close to $200 billion a year. This is back in 2020. I'm gonna assume that things have gotten better since then. 2021's data just isn't available yet. And so gaming revenue is about $15 billion a year. So, to put that in perspective, if they're making about $200 billion a year, $15 billion of which comes from gaming,
they're gonna have a lot of revenue coming from other sources to keep pumping into this. Obviously, they think gaming is going to be something that's gonna have growth in the future. That's why they keep investing in it. You know, I'm not a genie. I can't see the future. I can't promise that this bet is gonna pay off. That being said, I do think it's interesting that they're continuing to invest so heavily in it. Microsoft is an absolute giant of a company. What I'm saying by pointing out how small gaming is of their revenue is it's not like a small dip in gaming performance is going to shatter the company and prevent them from being able to invest at all. Clearly, they're thinking that long-term gaming is a market that they want to be a big player in. That's why they're doing all of this. I think the Game Pass makes the most sense. That being said, I might be an idiot. They might be going a completely different direction. Regardless, Microsoft is an absolutely massive company. The gaming studios they own alone would be a titan, but the fact that it makes up only like a tiny little portion of their revenue does just go to show how much of a behemoth they truly are. I'm not sure what the future really holds for Microsoft. Obviously, the government is starting to look at big tech a little bit more suspiciously than they used to. There's going to be a lot of changes in gaming. We know that certain hits pop up out of nowhere. Studios pop up and have a banger out of nowhere. Look at the fact that Epic Games was kind of not a huge player a while ago. All of a sudden, Fortnite comes out now. They're one of the biggest players taking on Apple and lawsuits and whatnot. So it's a very fast-changing world. That being said, I do think at this point there's no denying that Microsoft is at least trying to become the Disney of gaming. We all know how Disney went out and basically bought a bunch of studios. They even bought Fox to just really make sure that they own everything. Then they did Disney Plus because they owned a huge backlog of content. Obviously, I don't think Microsoft is really trying to join the streaming wars. It's a little bit crowded at this point, but the same way that they're buying up studios is the same strategy a lot of these companies are using. And I think as we all get older and gaming continues to grow and become more and more of a chunk of the entertainment sector, Microsoft's in a pretty good position in my opinion. You know, this isn't advice or anything. I'm just making a YouTube video about everything they own. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, obviously in the last year, NFTs have been talked about quite a bit. You know, whenever something comes out of nowhere and starts becoming worth a lot of value, it's going to attract a lot of attention. And that being said, a lot of people logically conclude that NFTs make the most sense in the video game world and, you know, everything's going to be NFT based. And I found an article that, you know, makes me feel a little bit better about the developers' feelings towards that. That being said, I think this article is a little too optimistic because it forgets the fact that while developers' opinions really matter, if the CEOs in charge of the companies are like, we don't care, put in NFTs because we're going to make a crap ton of money, their feelings about it don't really matter as much. Most game developers are not interested in NFTs according to survey reports. Obviously, surveys are about only as reliable as the survey itself. That being said, there's probably not much other data out there. And all in all, I do think it's a good thing that a majority of developers show that they're not interested in NFTs. I really do feel like it's got to be a balanced approach because, you know, if the CEOs had their way, yeah, you'd be paying $5,000 for every piece of DLC in an NFT collection. You know, you think Valorant makes a lot of money now off you buying their skins that are crazy expensive. Just wait till they get a 10% cut of like the $2,000 everybody has to pay to buy their skin. Obviously, not a lot of people would be buying their skin, you know, but I could see like a bunch of games with massive popularity changing a lot of their skins, DLCs over to NFT form. Just because the profit margins are so insanely large, you know? Think about it this way. If you can convince somebody to buy a picture that you already had made of like some game art, right? And they're gonna pay $2,000 in cryptocurrency to buy that. Well, you already had that art made because you had a bunch of art prepared for the game and promotional material. And it didn't cost a whole lot to upload the picture to the internet, so your profit margin is absolutely bonkers. You sell an NFT for $2,000, you know, what, $1,999 of it is profit? Less than that, obviously, but you get the example. According to a new survey, 70% of developers have little interest in using non-fungible tokens in their games. The annual State of the Game Industry report, which surveyed 2,700 game developers about their work, was released by the Game Developer Conference. What is your studio's interest in NFTs was one of the queries. 70% of respondents stated they were not interested, while 21% said they were slightly interested, and 7% said they were extremely interested, with only 1% of respondents saying they're already working on them. What is your studio's interest in cryptocurrencies as a payment tool? Another question stated. And the results were similar, with 72% saying they were not interested, 21% saying they're interested, 6% saying they're very interested, and 1% saying they're already using it. When asked about the possibilities of cryptocurrencies or NFTs in games, a few developers proclaimed it the future of gaming. However, a large majority of the respondents were opposed to both techniques, citing the possibility for scams, general monetization issues, and environmental consequences. Alright, so even if 7% of games switched over to using a bunch of NFTs and stuff, that's still quite a bit, you know, and obviously slightly interested could eventually lean over there. I think what's going to end up happening is a lot of the smaller developers, the mom and pop places, are going to focus a lot less on NFTs and more on just getting out a banger hit. But one thing that does concern me personally, you know, and I'm just an idiot reading gaming news, I'm not an expert, I think the mom and pop places have an incentive to not milk money with NFTs. But if you've noticed a trend, it seems like a lot of game studios keep getting bought up by bigger and bigger companies. And those bigger and bigger companies don't really care so much about, like, you know, we don't like people buying NFTs. Like I said, those huge companies, Activision, Microsoft, it's all about profit, it's all about quarterly revenue because it's about making the stock price go up. You don't have to like it, I'm just saying that's what they care about. So to them, yeah, all of a sudden being able to sell a picture of Master Chief or sell a picture of the Doom guy for like 50 grand, you do that enough times, you get enough people to buy your NFTs, that's a huge profit for basically no work that you have to put into it. I mean, obviously you have to mint the NFT, you have to have a guy on file to, you know, make them and understand them and all that, but all things considered, a company like Microsoft and how much stuff they own, they would be selling a crap ton of NFTs. That's the only thing that concerns me, even if a majority of developers don't like it. If they continue to be like conglomerated and development studios keep getting bought up by bigger and bigger companies, those big companies don't care, alright? They're gonna put them in their games because they know the profit margins are insanely large, and they also know that there's a portion of the population out there that would actually like it. Obviously not a large one. I think most of us agree that, like, you know, I don't like the current state of microtransactions in DLC. I would not be hyped about everything being NFT'd and becoming more expensive. But the people that are out there on Twitter getting mad when people right-click and save their NFTs, bro, they'd be hyped. They'd be giving these gaming companies basically all their money to be a part of this crap. The research also included some favorable replies, such as, I believe this is going to be a big revolution in the way we think about digital products and equity. However, the vast majority of answers were unfavorable, with one developer responding, "It's beyond me how this hasn't been discovered as a pyramid scheme." Another person questioned, "Why do we need them? What is the value of incorporating these systems into the game? Who is this that is making use of these items? It appears the crowd is quite small." I would agree that the amount of people out there willing to drop giant bucks on NFTs is relatively small, but the thing is, with these digital items, you really don't have to do a lot of work to get paid over and over again. And listen, I don't want the world to turn into NFT land where everything's NFTized, you know, whatever the verb would be of making something into an NFT. NFTized probably isn't it. Regardless, I don't want the world to turn into that. But if you like think about this from a CEO's perspective that only cares about quarterly profits, I'm going to use Valve as an example. Valve had this genius idea of making a marketplace and then releasing skins you can buy and sell on the marketplace. Now, do most people spend $10,000 on a CSGO knife? No, probably not. That being said, are there people spending $500-$600 on CSGO knives? All the time. Like, I used to be pretty involved in the CSGO skin economy back when, you know, skin gambling was a thing. That's not something I'm proud of, it's just the truth. And I can tell you that, like, you can list a knife for, $400 or $500 and sell it within 4 hours on Steam. Now, that's not the exact same thing as an NFT, but what I will say is Steam also takes a cut of the transaction. They don't really do anything except host the marketplace and make the skin. That being said, if they're taking 6% of every $500 transaction or whatever it may be, they make a crap ton. And a lot of these NFT products have something about how, you know, the developer gets a cut of each resell or whatever. So on top of making a bunch of money off selling it to the first guy, every time it continues to go up in value or get traded, you are going to make some fractional revenue. You do that enough times and you make a crap ton. Valve and Steam make a metric crap ton off the Steam market. And yes, sure, they invented the system, but at this point, they just kind of sit back, let the market run itself. The more expensive items get, the more they get paid because it's percentage based. And even if the items are small, they're still getting money off just hosting the marketplace. And this is what I'm saying when I'm saying it's good that 70% of developers don't want it, but I don't think big companies care. Literally, the end of this article is like the reason why I'm so confident that, smaller companies probably won't do it, but it's happening with bigger companies. It just is what it is. Many gaming companies, notably Konami and Ubisoft, have already begun selling digital things as NFTs, though this has sparked criticism from some due to the format's enormous karma impact and what many view to be cynical implementation. Doom 2 allows players to NFT shoot. The most recent high-profile games publisher to exhibit enthusiasm about technology advancement was Square Enix. Xbox CEO Phil Spencer is concerned about the exploitative potential of NFTs. They own Square Enix. That being said, President Yosuke Matsuda promised to include blockchain and NFT games in the company's game portfolio in a New Year letter published during the holiday break. Sega registered a trademark for Sega NFT this week, while Troy Baker, a well-known voice actor in video games, announced a partnership with VoiceVerse NFT, which claims to let customers buy AI voices as NFTs that can be used in any game. Like I said, it's good the developers don't care, but Konami and Ubisoft, some pretty large games, and of course something owned by Microsoft, which, it doesn't surprise me that a lot of these things are starting to dabble. And especially with Square Enix, Microsoft isn't going to come out and do NFTs on all of their studios, but they own 700 of them, you know what I mean? So it's going to be implemented piece by piece. If Square Enix has a success and people love it and it makes a bunch of money, they'll probably do more. And, I know a lot of these mega studios don't have the best reputation. People aren't exactly jumping for joy at Ubisoft or EA or even Activision and Blizzard at this point, I'm not saying that, but let's be honest, we all play at least one game that they make in one way or another. Oh, you hate EA? That's crazy. You ever play Madden, or are you a fan of, what is it? Apex? Well, that's on the EA launcher, so, I'm just saying, you're kind of giving them money one way or another if NFTs are involved. Oh, you don't like Microsoft? If you play anything from Activision or Blizzard, which you probably do, considering how much stuff they make, you're kind of screwed. You look at everything else Microsoft makes, you're kind of screwed. Ubisoft, any Siege players, Rainbow Six fans, Oh, yep. Assassin's Creed? Oh, yeah, you are also not having the most fun time in NFT world if that continues. And listen, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying a lot of these big companies are unpopular. That being said, that also means they don't have too much to risk by trying the whole NFT thing. EA is the most hated gaming company. They still break quarterly profits every quarter. If they add NFTs and get more hate and then make double the amount of money, guess what? They were hated before, they're making more money now. Obviously, to a lot of us, that wouldn't be worth it. But if you're just the guy in charge of the company getting paid $45 million a year to make the numbers go up, you don't really care that a lot of people on YouTube say that your company sucks. You know what I mean? I hope the world of everything being NFT mode and having to pay a bunch and NFT everything doesn't come. That being said, I do think it's not a good sign that a lot of these major developers are looking into the technology and wanting to learn more about it. Because, the realities of the business world is that they're probably going to do it simply because it's insane profit margins, it's a recurring income stream, and they don't particularly care if gamers are too upset. And as much as most of us aren't going to go out there and spend $6,000 on NFTs for any game, we know someone will. Everybody knows the guy that's got $45,000 worth of skins in CSGO. Probably not that much, but you get the idea. And listen, I'm not against video game skins. Like I said, I used to have a bunch of CSGO skins. I still have some. I have Valorant skins. I'm not against it. That's what I'm saying, though, is I'm already paying money for nothing. Now I would be paying money for something that I could resell at a higher price maybe eventually. I don't know. I could see how a lot of dumb nerds would get on board with that. I'm never on board with buying some super crazy expensive NFT, but if all of a sudden all my Valorant skins turned into NFT form, I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'd probably be a little bit conflicted. All in all, I think the future is inevitably coming. Don't be surprised if one day you log in to like every game and it's like, oh, NFT, da-da-da, on the home screen, buy our NFT to get access to premium super level lobbies. I hope that doesn't happen. I'm just saying, usually when big companies start doing it and having good results, the rest of the industry tends to follow suit. Look at the way Tesla is making everybody go bonkers for electric cars right now. It just kind of tends to like follow a consistent trend, you know? I hope I'm wrong, but that being said, I just felt like talking about it. I thought this article was interesting. Hopefully the developers, you know, get a little bit more respect, but I do know as it currently stands, developers are constantly told that they need to work overtime, get put on projects that don't matter by CEOs. So I respect their opinion, and I know they're the real people making the game, but like, yeah, the reality is, you know, the developers at Activision trying to make Overwatch 2 had months of their time wasted by the CEO on stuff that they didn't think was important, you know. So if the CEO comes in and says, make an NFT or I'm not giving you your paycheck, there's a solid chance that they're gonna make it. And I'm not saying the CEO should act like that, by the way. You know, I'm not on their team here. I'm just saying if somebody's like, okay, I need to make an NFT or my kids can't eat and I can't pay my mortgage, they're probably making the NFT and you can't blame them for that. If you really hate the idea of NFTs in your favorite video game, though, the best thing I can say is if they do put them in, you know, if they do, vote with your wallet, because if they don't make a lot of money, they won't keep doing it, you know. At the end of the day, they want to make profit go up. So if they put in NFTs and profits go down, chances are it's not going to be continue to be implemented that long. But that'll do it for the video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about NFTs in video games. Would you pay for them? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think I'm right and it's just kind of inevitable? If you disagree, let me know. I'm not an expert by any means, dude. Like, none of this was advice or anything. I'm just an idiot talking over gameplay. It's just what I think. But yeah, if you did enjoy, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Be sure to turn on notifications if you don't have it on already. That way you never miss another video. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below, along with the link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. You get the best energy drink for gamers. It helps me out, so like I said, code SCRUBBY is a great way to get a discount over there. And the last link in the description is a link to my merch store, so if you want to get the coolest merch to ever exist, head on over there and do that. And yeah, on that note, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.